Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a while since I recorded one of these, and it's been even longer since I uploaded one of these, to be fair. So, with that in mind, if you're seeing this, I'm probably not able to stream on a particular night. At this point, since that I'm not entirely sure what's causing the technical issue for, well, whenever I try and do one of these reactions live, I figured it makes more sense to have them in my back pocket for whenever I'm not able to make a stream night. Especially since, well, it is still the summer. There's bound to be something that comes up, right? So, I technically had 5 videos on the docket for this one, although looking at the video length on all of them, it looks like it'll end up being shorter than I expected. Usually I try and set these up to where it'll last about an hour or so, or at least that's how I think it'll end up being long term, as most of the videos you can end up throwing at me will end up being around the 10 to 20 minute mark. The thing is, then I actually dug into the links and realized, that's a timestamp. Let me just zoom in so you can properly appreciate that. That's a timestamp. So, I'm thinking it might make more sense for that to be something more structured if I am to react to that at all. So, my thinking there is as follows. At some point, I think it would be interesting to do, I guess, a meta critique of really long videos on YouTube. And I even have another example of that, as before I had cleared away, well, before I had effectively reset the section on Discord where you can send stuff for me to react to, I had been given, I think, a 3-hour retrospective on Breath of the Wild. And I think there's a couple more longer videos that I've been interested in checking out, one of which geared toward Pokemon Legends Arceus and another geared toward Fire Emblem Engage. So, especially since I'm engaging in my own long-ass video for Fire Emblem Engage, I think it would be interesting to look at them from a meta-commentary perspective to see, okay, what makes these work, what makes them tick, what makes them good or bad, more to the point. How much are points being repeated? What kind of editing is in play if you wish to treat it as main monitor content, as basically a feature-length film? Or is this better as second monitor content due to the nature of the editing, or lack thereof? So I think that could be interesting to check out. Feel free to let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in, and whether it would make more sense to do for this channel or for the review channel. Still, for now, I was anticipating this being only about 20 minutes, but then I opened it up this morning and realized, we're going to be here a while if I try going for that. So, no, we're going to go for something else for now. So, most of this is just going to be looking at silliness directed at me, but this one is an interesting topic for me because I'll be very curious to see what kind of evidence is presented for this. So, to set the background, I know very little about Hogwarts Legacy. Well, I know about all the controversy that surrounded it because I do keep up with the culture war, and I do know that J.K. Rowling is a very controversial figure, to put it mildly. But my understanding is that she ended up not having all that much involvement in it, and based on the personal leanings of the development team and based on the story they wrote, it is very likely that they were trying to distance themselves from that, and for the most part, Hogwarts Legacy itself ended up turning out fairly well, at least by most people's estimation. A somewhat average open world game that, for people who really like the wizarding world of Harry Potter, yeah, they were all for it. They were all for it. Because despite attempts at a boycott, it did not matter. Arguably, it made things worse for them, given that it just drew even more attention and there were people who bought it out of spite. Hell, if the PC version didn't have Denuvo on it, I might have gone for it. Even though I despise open world elements with a fierce passion. So, although I guess that would make my perspective more interesting, because my understanding is that, well, my understanding is that it is fairly standard as far as open world games are concerned. Not necessarily bad, but just standard. So, I don't know. I suspect that if I played it, I'd probably land somewhere in the 6 to 7 range, just based on what I've heard about it, but I haven't looked too far into it. Though, the title of this alone has me curious. Did Hogwarts Legacy copy How to Train Your Dragon music? That is a very interesting title all on its own. Because, well, let's see if I can... Let's see. Actually, give me a second. I'm going to black the screen out real quick so I can pull stuff up. let me just remind myself what the thumbnail for this video looks like. See if I can pull that up, because this was buried. Ah, here we are. So, let's see if I can...
Hogwarts Legacy.
Oh, nope, that just broke that open. Okay, let me tab out of that real quick. Let's see, this is probably the reason why it should be live if I'm gonna go through this nonsense. Okay, where are you? Ah, here we are. Okay, so, let's see. How easy would it be to expand that? Let's see, copy image, and then I wonder, can I... Yeah, I need to close a few things as well. Probably should have done that earlier. Okay, let me try opening this tab. Actually, I might be able to just open GIMP real quick, because I just hit the copy image button. Let's see if it pulls up. Yeah, because I think the thumbnail alone is also worth looking at, so let's see. Close. Alright. No data to be pasted. Hang on, come on. Copy image. Huh, interesting. It's not wanting to let me copy it over. Alright then, I guess you just stuck with the small image here, because this is an archive of the old React submissions, and I don't know how easy it would be to zoom in. Actually, you know what I can do? I can duplicate. Let's see, what can I do? Doesn't look like it's letting me... Alright, so now that I've done that, let's see if I can zoom into this at all. There we are. Gonna be very scuffed, but here we are. So, this is the thumbnail we're looking at here. So, probably not as big as it could be, but still. What you have here is, well, very similar notation, basically the same notes. They aren't showing a time signature. Well, they're showing a time signature. They're not showing a key signature. They're not showing a tempo. So what has me curious is how much of this will actually line up as they expect. So let me just fix things up real quick. All right, I guess I can get rid of this duplicate. There we are. Okay, GIMP can go away. So what I'll be curious about is how much of it is copying and how much of it is inspiration. Because it's actually kind of funny, because when I first started playing Stardew Valley, I know, a bit of a random tangent, but it'll go somewhere. When I first started playing Stardew Valley, I ended up recognizing one of the pieces of music that you hear in spring sounds very similar to the first music when you enter, I think it's called Termina Village in Chrono Cross. Let me just confirm real quick. I think it's called Termina Village, right? Yes. Well, I don't know if it's called Village per se, but when you go to Termina for the first time in Chrono Cross, there's a track in Stardew Valley that sounds very similar to it. The thing is, though, there are a lot of the instruments are actually the same, but the difference is that the Stardew Valley version, even if it is a remix, is slowed down, changes up the chord progression. Well, it doesn't change up the chord progression too much, but does change up some of the notes used to reach the similar points. And it does diverge a decent amount at the beginning and end of the track. And so, even though if you listen to them back to back, you can definitely hear similarities, that doesn't necessarily make them all that different. Or that doesn't necessarily mean that they were copied, let's put it that way. Apparently I can't do English this morning. Well, wouldn't be the first time, I suppose. Even though this is my usual time to record for for scripted videos. A little later, to be fair, but still. Either way, I'll be very curious to see how this video ends up. Well, I'll be curious to see what evidence is presented. So, I don't know too much about this channel.
For Rise of the...
Yeah. Okay, so, make detailed, highly researched video essays that clearly explain the storytelling of film music, the instruments used, and highlight the creative ways composers and filmmakers solve their problems. Okay, so, what kind of videos have you done? Alright, so it looks like you've spent a lot of time looking at How to Train Your Dragon. Can't blame you there, there's a lot of really good stuff in there. And then... yeah, a lot of How to Train Your Dragon stuff, to be fair. solid inspiration. The soundtrack for those films are stellar. Still, even so. So this is something you'd be very familiar with in that case, so I'll be very curious to see what you have to say on this.
Hogwarts Legacy offers an unprecedented video game experience of the wizarding world, but some of the music sounds less John Williams and more John Powell.
I was wondering if you could play that song again.
Which one, man?
The one that goes...
Okay, I'm already hearing it. Okay, yes, yep. Okay, yep, I'm hearing it. Oh, man, wow, Okay, yeah, just from the opening, yeah, okay, I can definitely understand why you'd believe that, because I believe for this section in How to Train Your Dragon, let's see, I think they have violins backing it up, but I think it's primarily bagpipes when you first hear this, because this is the first flying theme when you've got, well, after the training montage of trying to get it right, this is when they're out in the open water trying to really make it work, so... Yeah, okay, I'm already hearing this and thinking, okay, yeah, okay, that's bad.
No, man, you're thinking of...
Yeah, there it is, there's the bagpipes.
The two tracks are Lord of the Shore for riding the Graphorn in Hogwarts Legacy, and Test Drive, the culmination of the flying theme in How to Train Your Dragon. Let's look at what's the same.
Oh god. He's even going into detail on the backing and okay, so the instruments might be subtly different, but yeah, that is a very similar rhythm. Oh geez, yeah, that's extensive. I mean, at most they might have just changed the key signature a little bit, but maybe knocked it down into a minor key, but even then, well, not necessarily a minor key, maybe just a couple lower. Huh. Oh god, I didn't even realize that part would be different.
Coincidence?
Oh my gosh, okay, yeah, forget anything I said about the comparisons between Stardew Valley and Chrono Cross. No, that looks damning. That looks very damning. And let's see. Okay, so you do have a section highlighting the differences, which is good.
I think not!
What this actually reminds me of is the music composed for the How to Train Your Dragon 2 game, where some tracks are pulled straight from the first movie, and some new ones are clearly built off of Test Drive, using the same themes and orchestration, but go in a different direction. Is it the same people? I've checked the game's booklet and the credits, but I don't see any for music, which I guess is another issue, but...
Yeah. Credit the people who work on your dang game, guys. Come on.
This got me thinking, do video games have temp tracks? I'd never really thought about that before.
What do you mean by temp? Oh, hey, you're about to explain temp track for me. Excellent. Good. Good video.
Temp track is a temporary music track placed in editing before the score is written to give a sense of tone and pace. But temp tracks can create plenty of other issues, and if the new track is very similar to the temp, it can lead to lawsuits. In a previous video...
Oh, I see. Interesting. So... effectively, the idea being is that you don't necessarily know what the final arrangement's going to be, because you might want to... well, you may have a central leitmotif in mind that you've already thought of, but you haven't figured out how to integrate it, or perhaps there's some other elements in the process. Okay. Interesting. So, I guess that does make a degree of sense, doesn't it? Yeah, you wouldn't necessarily have a clear idea yet, but so you'd want something that you can draw from. Huh. Fair enough.
Video, I showed how a temp track was used to inspire one of How to Train Your Dragon's most famous tracks, Forbidden Friendship.
Interesting.
This was going to be the actual track until John Powell convinced the directors to let him write something inspired by the temp, but better suited to the scene. But the rest of the score is original. Is Hogwarts Legacy the same story? One track that's very similar and the rest original? And who did this? The game
Who
actually
did this
has a
indeed?
few composers, and I'm not sure which one's credited for this track.
Yeah, that's another thing that can be difficult to sort out. Also, sorry for the subtitles getting cut off. This is on my ultra-wide. So, it looks like YouTube changed how their subtitles work to where they expand to fit the bottom of the screen instead of just staying in front of the video. Either way, I'll have to keep that in mind. Maybe I should just have video watching on my 1080p screen so that we don't run into stuff like this anymore. Might be worth considering. Anyway, so that is one thing that I've run into every once in a while when I'm trying to fish for music for when I'm making a video. Because usually I'm just pulling from the game itself, and I can usually say, alright, so these are all the tracks in the game, these are all the composers of the game, but unless you really dig down and unless there's a lot of conversation surrounding it, or there's an official version of the soundtrack release that explicitly credits every single person who worked on this track specifically, it can be hard to know. So, if the game does have multiple composers, that would absolutely complicate things, because then you don't know who's necessarily to blame on that count. So, yeah, I think just to give an example, I think the Fire Emblem Three Houses game rip I have has something like 3 composers credited, and I think that is actually the case if you look at the Wikipedia article on the game. And then the Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hope stuff, I had to look that up as well, since at the time I ripped that out of the game, it didn't have an official soundtrack, so I think that one has 4. So, you want to try telling me which one worked on the remixes, which one worked on the original stuff, and whether there was any overlap? Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
But the lead composer is Chuck E. Myers C., and another is J. Scott Rakoczy, who studied the music of John Williams and John Powell, among other composers.
Given how influential John Williams is, I mean, most people know him for Star Wars and Indiana Jones and the like, so not the worst person to study if you're trying to look for epic orchestral work.
Composers are clearly very passionate and honored to be working on this project, working with John Williams' music to build on it.
It's just the most amazing project and the most amazing team of people. I can't believe all the incredible people that are making this whole vision come to life. The brilliance of John Williams' Hedwig's theme. He hadn't even seen the movie and he wrote that incredible piece of music.
As for the
I'm trying to remember which one is Hedwig's theme, and unfortunately I'm drawing a blank. I don't dare look it up. Well, it's been too long since I last saw the Harry Potter films, let's put it that way. And I don't dare look it up because I know I'll immediately get Content ID flagged.
track, we don't know who's most responsible. This could have been all one composer leaning too close to the inspiration. Or it's possible his boss heard Test Drive, or it was in the temp, and he just said, yes, do this, which does happen with temp tracks, which can lead to lawsuits. But is it different enough? It's worth mentioning Lord of the Shore does have an original melody after the ostinato, but it's kind of overshadowed by everything else. One difference I noticed is quality, because it's not real.
What do you mean by not real?
It has slightly less oomph, because it's not a real orchestra, unlike other tracks in the game, which kind of makes it feel like one of the many Test Drive covers out there.
So, I guess the difference then is that it's a difference between recording all of the instruments separately and combining them combining them all into one, as opposed to recording the orchestra as the orchestra, to where it's one composer, one track throughout the entire thing, and you just have the whole mix. I'm assuming that's the difference there?
Or a parody video where the music is just different enough, which is fine because that's parody.
Yep.
I wonder if it's a coincidence
Good videos, by the way. Well, we're checking out those parody videos as well.
this track was never recorded. Maybe there were scheduling or budget issues, or maybe this was a late addition that just leaned too heavily on something else. There's also a difference in function. One is film music that has to sync just right with the action, and
Oh yeah, that's always going to be something to think about. In fact, there's a really long video that I think yourmoviesucks.com, I think is his name, yourmoviesucks.org. I can't remember which one he is, but, well, I can't remember the exact name after YMS, but he's working on a really lengthy critique of the Lion King remake, and he released a part 1. I can't remember exactly when it came out. Hang on, let me go dig up another window real quick and I'll go digging. So, remind me, when did that video come out? Okay, so that was 2 years ago when the part 1 video came out. And one of the things that he noted, because he's really passionate about film score as well, is that because the Lion King the Lion King remake was trying to do shot for shot, they had attempted to, they had just replicated the music wholesale, even though there were moments such as during the Stampede scene where the music shifts a little bit when it switches to, I think, Zazu's perspective when he sees where Simba is and all that, and I think there's a bit of a trill in the trumpets or something to that effect. And so that was something that worked really well in the original version, because that was the composition matching what's visually on screen, but was not the case for the remake, and so he made a big deal out of that. So, yes, that is something you have to think about, that composing something for a video game when you're in combat or just wandering around in the world, as opposed to, when you know exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, very different beast. Good to bring that up.
And one is a video game where the action in the gameplay is unpredictable. It's up to the player. And yet, it has a lot of the same changes as Test Drive. And one is a ride, but not a flight, which makes it a little strange they borrowed from a track specifically written to emulate flying.
And what's even stranger is, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there a hippogriff scene or a hippogriff section in Hogwarts Legacy, or aren't you able to get onto a broomstick at certain points? So, that is a strange oversight.
It's weird that of all original tracks in the score, this one sounds the most like a pre-existing one, which is also from a totally separate series, written by a non-Harry Potter composer, which is also owned by a different studio. But it's more complicated. There was a distribution merger of Warner Brothers and Universal in 2020. Does that change any potential copyright issues? Could they have done the E.T. flying theme or Jurassic Park if they wanted, even though the companies are still technically separate? I'm sure John Powell doesn't know about this, and I'm not sure how he'd feel. I asked around about Hogwarts Legacy and found out it does directly quote some Harry Potter music, specifically Harry's Wondrous World when the castle is introduced, and Hedwig's theme throughout the game. But
well, it would have been difficult to completely avoid all of those, although I'm trying to remember the exact rights holding, because I know Warner Brothers is primarily the one involved, but I can't remember how that fares as far as the music and cinema rights go, because, although to be fair, legalese like that is not my strong suit when it comes to the film industry. It's not, to be fair, very little as far as the film industry is my wheelhouse, but even so, the problem you'd run into is that this is still, even though there'd be a lot of rights negotiation in the background, you don't necessarily want if the consumer becomes aware of it, there's a problem, because what you have there once that happens is that you have a greater risk of the suspension of disbelief being broken, because then it's no longer a matter of, oh, here's this unified product, here's something that's part of the thing I like, here's it harkening back to the thing. It's then a matter of, oh, you're not allowed to have that because this guy owes it, and it goes from a universe and a story back into a product. So, yeah, fun times abound.
Does this track even work? Outside of the obvious, I do have a critique. Test Drive brings that power needed for this thing, but for such a large, stampeding, flightless beast, should it sound as graceful as Test Drive? I guess that's the magic element, but again, this isn't a flight. Off the top of my head, here's some actual Harry Potter music that I think
okay, there's my answer.
could be a better fit. So the good news is,
I don't know if those notes really lined up, but although that might have been a timpani, to be fair. It's been a while since I last played one.
If you want to ride a magical creature,
I am a trained I did play percussion in high school, so I have a decent amount of familiarity with the percussion side of things.
with Test Drive playing, you basically
I've got a marimba downstairs, in fact.
can. But going back to that ostinato, it's important. Some people call it Toothless's theme. Technically it's not, it's the flying ostinato.
Okay, that edit was a bit much.
Both main characters and their bond, their story, woven throughout the whole score of the whole series. I consider it the backbone of the score. So
Yep.
Is this borderline plagiarizing a major part of another score? Not just a cue, but a major theme? The first half of the Lord of the Shore ostinato is the same thing, just in a different key, which had...
Actually, I think I saw in the comments, I've been told it is the same key? Actually, oh wait a minute, yeah. If it's just lower notes but in this... Oh wait, maybe that would account for the difference. Oh wait, that does account for the difference. Hang on. If it is the same key... I'd have to check to see what the original key is, because if it's just lower notes, that would explain the difference, because there are subtle differences in how, well, if you're going up the scale on something like a major or a minor key, you get somewhat different effects, which is why you hear minor keys in stuff like somber scenes or scary scenes, whereas the major keys tend to be used for the big booming epic stuff. So if it's just the lower notes, that would explain why my first thought would be, wait, did you put this in a minor key? Because if it's on a different point, then yeah, that would work. That would make sense to me.
How to Train Your Dragon probably also does somewhere, because it plays in so many variations across the series, or even just in one movie. If you copied the James Bond guitar riff and barely changed it, not just the notes, but the style and everything, everyone would notice because it's famous.
Indeed.
But it's also a major part of the series' music. It's the James Bond theme.
Although, one could argue that animation is not given nearly the same degree of prestige that, well, live action is given for whatever reason. Because there's still very much the impression that, hey, animation is only for children. And to be fair, some of the most successful animation projects are family films. But still, one need only look at the rest of the world to see how well that interpretation of the medium goes.
It's not just the opening cue in this one movie, it's everywhere. I think there's nothing wrong with using Test Drive as an inspiration, but whatever the circumstances were that led to Lord of the Shore, they probably should have just kept the general tone and orchestration instead of copying the start, and then the changes, and then the middle, and almost everything else. Now going back to this clip,
I was wondering if you could play that song again.
neither of these is actually a song.
Wait, how are you defining song then?
A song is a piece of music with lyrics, but almost no one knows that and uses it right.
I mean, yes. But, well, the problem is that piece of music is a bit of a clunky turn of phrase, so people default to song because it's what they know.
Because there's a lot most people don't know about film music, which is why I'm making a video about film music basics. So subscribe to find out what else you don't know. And
Alright.
check out my video on what Test Drive has in common with an actual John Williams theme. Thanks for...
Alright, fair enough. Gotta shill your stuff at the end there, right? I feel like you could have gone into more detail on that, but then again, given the circumstances, it's not as if you could go into much more depth without risking copyright, and I think the shorter the video is, the less likely you are to be hit with copyright stuff. It's honestly kind of a weird way that it's set up, but either way. Interesting subject matter, if nothing else. Seems like it'd be an interesting channel. So, yeah, there it is. So, now that that's been seen too, one of the regular viewers has decided to make more shenanigans making fun of me. So, I can't remember whether I watched this one live or if I saw this otherwise. I know I showed the first one off. So, how am I going to be made fun of this time? Oh yeah, I remember watching this on my own now, yeah. Okay, I think I did see this then. Still, we'll watch it again just for fun. Yeah. No, I'm not wrong. You're wrong. Yeah. No, Cheeto's usually outside, first of all. Please stop. Okay. You probably could have stood to... Well, I know I'm critiquing a meme, which is going to look like the most cringe thing ever. You could have stood to let the text stay there for a little bit longer so we have time to process it. It's a bit... I know you're a generation below me, and I know that TikTok is a big thing right now, but you could stand to let the text exist for at least a little bit longer. I mean, if your video is short to the point where it could be a YouTube short, calm down. Alright, that... Again. Yeah, pretty much, that's why I'm doing this offline. Alright, that was a bit abrupt. Either way. Also, was that the Undertale text font? Oh, well. So, that's one. What am I about to be inflicted with? Oh, of course you use this! Alright, what is this? I'm glad you don't know where I live. Let's see. Okay. At least you're willing to take digs at yourself. I'll give you credit on that one. Okay. Okay. Citation needed, please. That was literally just my Metal Gear footage. At least at the end. Which one? Actually true. How dare you? To be fair, even on a game that I'm supposed to be good at, I somewhat flubbed it on the last variety night. I should finish that battle on my own time. Either way. So, that was that. Oh, and of course you threw that in here. So, check chat, huh? All I care is if you check chat. See, you keep pressing me on that, the more I'm likely to ignore you. Still, I do need to read chat eventually, but I want, well, it's been a long week. I just want to relax right now. So, I'll check chat at the end of the stream. Well, off-topic stuff anyway. Okay. A bit obvious that there was a cut there in the audio, but otherwise... Yep, fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, in all seriousness, though, sometimes it's just been a long day and I do want to relax. So, I will see to chat when I see to chat. I'm more concerned about having a good time in the moment and making sure that the stream is, well, making sure, well, let me put it this way. You complain about my gaming skills, and then you send chat messages at me and expect me to pay attention to that while also getting my ass kicked. Try doing both at once sometimes. It makes it a lot harder. It makes it a hell of a lot harder. It's actually kind of funny because I'll go online. I remember, well, what is it? Performance anxiety? Even just in my personal life, I'll spend a bit of time on Smash Bros. Online to pseudo-prepare to deal with a friend, and then I'll get my butt kicked when it comes time to take him on. So, either way. Whatever the case may be, that's everything that was on the docket for today, apart from, well, this needing to be added to a different docket. My god. 8 million views. Huh. Interesting. I'm kind of... Probably didn't need to spread the text out here so much. Oh, you're just going through everything then. Holy crap. Huh. Not really spending a whole lot of time on any one game looking at that, but that looks like pretty much every Sonic game that's released. Okay, that'll be fascinating to dig into. I'll have to make time for this on my own time. Alrighty then. Hopefully that ends up being a good video, and for now, so, since this is releasing when I'm not able to stream on a given night, I have no idea what the context surrounding this will be, so hopefully whatever I'm up to will be going well. So, till then, I guess whatever this is replacing, I'll see you next week, hopefully, to get back to that. Otherwise, wow, I have been making good progress on having stream highlights that I can intersperse when I don't have reaction videos stuff to upload. And I've also been making good progress on the Fire Emblem Engage managing mode stuff. I just rendered and uploaded another one of those recently. So, making good progress, so hopefully we'll have something to show for ourselves later down the line. Till then, thank you all for stopping by, and I'll see you all next week.